Morning at NTV. My name is Mala Kivila Odera. Welcome back. And so here on Kickstarter, yes, it should be Kickstarter, we are talking about the EAC. Of course, we did talk about Boo and what is being done to ensure that we promote local products for the local manufacturer and, of course, you who is in the local sector. And so moving it on to the EAC, of course, that being our huge market, especially for SMEs. And so we're going to be having that conversation. The EAC marks its 20th anniversary since the signing of its treaty with the East African community in the 1990s, and of course specifically 1999, right? So that makes 20 years. And so in studios to break that down and just to understand about this particular conference that will pretty much push for the same is we have the Minister for State for EAC Affairs, Honorable Julius Magada. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next to him we have Mr. Emmanuel Sevijo. He is the CEO of the African Institute of Regional Integration Studies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
David.
This doesn't come at a very good time. We are talking about the East African community, and we're talking about borders that are closed, and you're marking 20 years. This can't be a good start for you at this, but I'll start with the minister here. 20 years.
Yes.
We set goals at the beginning. Do you think that we have gotten anywhere with these goals that we set as to achieve as the East African community? Because of course we've had challenges, but do you think we have met any goals so far? And what goals do you think that we have met?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, EAC was established in 1999 by the three presidents then of Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, and thereafter it was expanded. The program that EAC has, it can even expand and pick the whole of East and Central. And it's a best performing regional bloc in Africa. Now, the EAC builds its performance on the pillars. And it has 4 pillars. It builds on the customs union as a pillar. And there are many programs that we implement under the customs union. We also build another pillar on the common markets protocol. Another pillar under the monetary union, and then the last one is the political federation. EAC is the only regional bloc that has a perspective of the political federation. Other blocs, even EU, has no element of political federation. And that is where you will find that we have a plan that we may not be a team that can easily break off, even if we have challenges. Now, under the customs union, there are many programs that are implemented. Like if you find the harmonization of the customs system, where you find the Uganda Revenue Authority system is now linked to systems of other revenue agencies across East African community. You can be here in Uganda, you have goods within customs, but a person or an officer in Kenya or in Tanzania or in Rwanda is able to read the system and appreciate that, yes, this container, this truck is in Malaba or Busia or in Mutukula, but it is for Honorable Maganda Julius, it's carrying maybe wines and it's being destined maybe to Mbale or it's going to Sudan, whereby now it reduces elements of where you would find people smuggling. We have also integrated the customs system in a way that now we work on a single customs territory, whereby while you are entering goods at Mombasa, you can be able to pay taxes while the goods are still at entry in Mombasa. You pay here in Kampala, and those goods are delivered directly to your destination without going to any other customs point. And this is where we will find that it has reduced on the cost of doing business in terms of delays, in terms of the backlogs that come with the issues within customs, and even where clients sometimes have failed to beat the times in terms of delivery to the other clients who would have made orders with such importations. Then we have what we call harmonization of all organizations around the border to sit at one desk. If you go to an entry like in Mutukula, like in Katuna, you will find that the Ugandan revenue officer with the Rwandan revenue officer, they are sitting on the same desk. It is no longer clear in Uganda, and again moved to clear on the other side of Rwanda. Clear at one point.
Right.
The same happens even to immigration. The immigration officer sits on the same desk. And now this is a 24-hour system of operation where you, all times, when you have entry or exit, you will find officers there. Now it has reduced the time of doing business where we would clear a container in Mombasa and take 17 days to only 4 days from Mombasa to owner's premises.
Honorable.
So these are all achievements that we can count on under the customs union, and that's just only one pillar that I'm speaking about.
Right.
And if we go to the common markets, a lot also comes into the perspective.
You know, marking 20 years, it's remarkable that we've been able to achieve all those strides. I mean, I can attest to that. And being a business consultant, now it's easy to even, you know, do business across the region, which is an amazing thing. But I'll bring you in, Mr. Emmanuel, on this one. Of course, with the recent happenings between the row between Uganda and Rwanda. What's your view on this? Pretty much experts have come to say that this is tainting the image of the EAC bloc and pretty much bringing down the efforts that have so far been put in place to ensure that we get to that level that Honorable is describing.
Okay, thank you for having me. Now, I think it's important for regions to integrate, because with wider markets, you're able to sell your goods to more people. So we've been having boo-boo in the previous week, and you ask yourself, where are we going to sell those products? They're probably not going to be sold in Uganda alone.
Right.
So we need more markets, we need bigger markets, and that is the importance of the region. And so with regional integration, I think there are ways in which member states can work together to cooperate, and I think that we are going to see those ways slowly coming into effect. And I think that there's a very good future for East Africa in terms of regional cooperation. I do not suppose that there will be a disintegration of East Africa. I think that East Africa can only get stronger and stronger.
Interesting. But your view on this particular one, how can this impasse be solved? Of course, we're going to try and get the bites of, you know, both the Rwandan president and our president. That particular friction, and so far we know businesses have lost quite, you know, huge sums of money, especially the traders who, you know, operate between that particular border. What's your view on this?
Well, of course, it's in a way it impacts regional trade, but I believe that it is something that will be sorted out politically. I do not suppose that there are very many experts out there who can talk about this issue confidently. I think that it's an issue for the politicians, and that it will be sorted out at the highest level. Yeah.
Okay.
Miss, I'm going to bring you in here right as we're talking about regional integration, and like you said, politics, and the politicians will solve it. The East African community, especially when we were having, I don't want to call it a tug of war, pull and shove at the borders like we're having between Uganda and Rwanda. Where is the East African community? Because this is your region. Instead of letting two leaders go at each other trying to solve whatever it is happening at the border, the East African community, because this is your role, this is your region. Where have you been? Where are you in this whole saga?
Yeah, thank you very much. What I want to appreciate is that there's a problem because one of the partners have complained.
Yeah.
And we have mentioned as government that there's still engagement going on. Between the two presidents, President of Uganda and President of Rwanda, they are speaking. There are also other regional leaders who have picked interest on the impasse that we find is now emerging between Uganda and Rwanda. But what is most important, and I know that will bring this matter to call, as my colleague said, is the two leaders must engage. And the advantage we have is that the president of Rwanda is the chairperson of the summit of the region. So he would also not wish to see that during his term of office is when the region is disintegrating. So I have hope that as we engage as the leaders, within a short time, this problem will end. I don't see any big issue generally that it could break the region that has built on a very strong foundation. But complaints have been there. This is not the first time that we are finding some bit of rifts which are emerging even between Rwanda and Uganda, but they were sorted even before, and we have engaged a very good relationship. So I can just say that within this week or coming week, maybe the government will come out with a report and a message to the country, so that we understand on the challenges that are emerging within the region, and particularly between Uganda and Rwanda.
Don't you think an incident like this is pointing out the weakness of the East African community? Because when you're having a disagreement of sort, why should it get to where it is when you have the East African community? These complaints should come to the East African community, and they should be solved there before we get into the situation that we're in. Don't you think that a situation like this is just outlining the weaknesses of the East African community? Because, as you said, it's one of the heads that is caught up in this saga.
It may not generally point out on the weaknesses. What I know is that the biggest part is the parties who are involved. How much has the other party engaged in terms of resolving the issue? We have already a committee on conflict resolution within the East African community. We would raise a question: has the other party reported to the committee to resolve the issues that are really at play? If they have not, then did they engage at a bilateral level before maybe going public? Probably you may find that those stages were not handled before maybe to went to the media. But these are some of the things I said we are trying to engage now, because we would say, if you had a complaint, you had an issue, why couldn't you first begin with the committee which is supposed to resolve issues of conflict? Because it is there. It's a very strong committee. It's not even chaired by the sitting members of mini summit. It's chaired by a retired or one of the former presidents. And that's where you find that it builds on a very strong pillar. So, like you find in Burundi, it's also being resolved using that committee, which is chaired by Mupaka. So I have a feeling that we may, within a very short time, find that there's peace between Uganda and Rwanda, and I'm not worried at all. These cases, even within the family, it happens. There will be complaints here and there, and the community should definitely worry. Right. But the fact remains, for us, we are confident we shall resolve it.
You know, it coming from you, of course, a majority of the viewers will breathe a sigh of relief. Coming from you, especially, a key figure when it comes to the EAC. Hopefully, this impasse will be solved, because when you see the articulations and the utterances that are being made by the two presidents, some are saying it's a battle for egos, really, but it coming from you that this impasse will be solved pretty soon is good enough. Let's move to the conference, the first annual conference that is being organized, of course, by your institute. Just bring us in on this one, and I'm sure the keen focus will be on legal, economics, and also the business implications of the EAC. Just bring us to speed of this particular conference, what its goal is, and what will be the outcomes of it as well.
Okay, so we shall have the first annual EAC conference on 15th March at the Naguru Skies Hotel from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the theme will be the legal, economic, and business implications of East African integration. Now, we chose this particular theme because East African integration affects almost all sectors of the economy.
Right.
And it has implications, both it has legal implications, it has economic and business implications. And so we want to take this discussion out of the public offices and the parliaments and to the private sector. And that is why we're bringing this conference and bringing panels of experts and various guest speakers to speak to the private sector, particularly about what East Africa means for them, or about what integration means for them, to assess the past 20 years, and also very significantly to look at what the next 20 years has for us. The region is going into a monetary union. It will soon be in a political union. And so business strategies have to change, have to adapt to that.
Right.
Legal obligations, in a way, are affected. Economies are going to be affected. And so we need this discussion to be actually held, especially by the private sector.
Interesting. And it's going to happen on the 15th of March, right?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Honorable, just to bring you on this one as we come to a close pretty much, let's talk about the, pretty much when it comes to externalization of labor and what we were seeing in the Busia border, just, was it last week? Young girls who are being trafficked in the border. What is the EAC talking about? The conversations they're having with regards to the porous borders that we're having, just tightening those loose ends.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the aspect of externalization of labor First of all, we are having a bill which is coming in the Parliament of Uganda that is supposed to harmonize on how we can support our Ugandan youth to get jobs outside Uganda. We have also regulated by registering companies that are dealing in the export of people to those countries, especially the Arab world. But now the problem is there are many Ugandans who are being trafficked. And I could say the human trafficking aspect beats the law. Right. Now the porous borders and the basis on how we build on the EAC, on especially on the aspect of migration, we are trying to talk of remove of the borders so that we allow people move freely. You can use your identity card to cross the border. We have also allowed people to break into the other side of the country, a range of 15 to 20 kilometers without being questioned. So you may not tell a person who is crossing over the intentions that he has, but there are also people behind. If you see these girls being trafficked, there are many people behind, big dealers. They go to Nairobi and work out how these girls could move. Right. As Uganda, we have already put up a regulation. The Minister of Gender is discussing. We have concluded on how we can put more regulations around the airport and even other areas where the exit points would be, especially outside within the region, so that we can reduce on the amount of these girls who are moving. Have governments to know where they are going, so that we can also engage the other side where they are going to get jobs, because when they get problems, it is again government that comes out to support their return. So there's a big challenge, especially on the aspects of regulating these jobs for the people outside Uganda. But we are trying to see how we can resolve as a region.
All right.
The law is coming into
on
force.
a positive end, of course, for them that move to the other countries to look for employment in the right, using the right route, there have been, speculations about this EAC friction, and people are saying for Ugandan to get a work permit in Kenya, it's becoming hard of late for a Kenyan to get a work permit, and just across the EAC block. What's your view on that, and what is being done to streamline that front, pretty much?
Yeah, the work permits, first of all, the common markets allows free movement of labor, free movement of people and goods and services, and even establishment of capital. Now, if we talk of the work permits, we waived off the permit fees. That is the first thing, so that we can allow people to move. But before you get the job, you must have a contract with the organization under which you are going to get a job. Now, some countries, as I said, one of the challenges we have is countries are reluctant to open up. Even while a lawyer would have a client to present in Kenya, we have what we call the mutual recognition agreements that we have signed as a region. We allow lawyers, engineers, architects, surveyors, doctors, agriculturists to do and practice in other partner states. But you will find there is that reluctance, and that's the challenge we have. We have to be sincere of the other partner states to open up so that lawyers can move, or even medical people can move and establish within those countries. So you will find if there are jobs available within a partner state, the organizations, the agencies that are supposed to do the clearance to get the permit will be a bit reluctant. And the assumption they give is that they wonder whether they would not be having a person who fits in that position before they open up. So this is a challenge that we have. We have to appreciate it, and we are trying cases which come out. Because we tell the people who are suffering the problem, can you come out and report to the ministry so that we can engage? Because we talk on paper, we need to see the thing applicable. So when people are suffering the scenario and they are not opening up to us who are leaders, we may not know how to resolve it. Recently we resolved a problem of a pilot in Kenya, and he's now working. But he had taken almost 2 years. The contract was almost ending.
So what you're saying is that them that are caught up in this mess need to speak out.
Yes, that's what we want to hear.
All right.
So I think.
Thank you so much. David, we've learned quite a bit, and I'm sure that you, the viewer at home, have learned quite a bit. Speak out. In case you have any challenges, speak out. And of course, we do have the first annual East African Conference coming up on the 15th of March. Catch up details of that. Do not miss out on that one. Very important, especially for you, my business people. Very important. Thank you so much, Minister of State for EAC Affairs, Honorable Julius Magada, and also the CEO of African Institute of Regional Integration, Mr. Emmanuel Serijo. That's it for Take Note. Be sure to keep with us. Morning at NTV still continues.
Are you in Kampala, East, West, Central, or the northern parts of Uganda? Daily Monitor has got you covered every weekday with